Okay, welcome everyone. Delightful to have everybody joining us. Irving is asking us to learn for his nephew's 50th yahrzeit, Meir ben Yehuda Chaim, Neshama should have an aliyah. And we all of Klal Yisrael learn in memory of who they called the wise man of the Jews, Chacham Shel HaYehudim, Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky, Rabbi Yaakov ben Yamin. His neshama should have a lichtige Gan Eden. My second son Yaakov is named after him. I knew Rabbi Yaakov because Rabbi Yaakov used to come to visit Rabbi Moshe, and I saw him then. And one time, because when by weddings, I used to bring Rabbi Moshe tea, so the kitchens in the wedding halls already knew me, so they let me do whatever I wanted. They knew I was bringing something for Rabbi Moshe, and I used to carry a tea bag and sugar cubes in my pocket. So by one chasana, I brought Rabbi Yaakov a tea, and he told me that a chashuv, a person, gave him a bracha that he should live into his hundreds. And he said, it's working. So he said he's giving me that bracha. And that was a very, very meaningful bracha to me. And it's one of the reasons I named my son after him. He was a very great man. And he had this trait that when you heard him say something, you didn't forget it. I heard this from Rebelsky. Rebelsky said that Rabbi Yaakov wasn't one of his main rebbeim, but whatever he heard from Rabbi Yaakov, he didn't forget. I once traveled to Torah V'das to hear a shir from Rabbi Yaakov, and that shir is emblazed in my memory. He had such a koyach. It was such a responsive by Shol Fogel in Nishmas Yaakov Zeb and Yodai Rivka Bas Yaakov Yosef Tziv Yamirim Bas God Yosef ben Tzion ben Yaakov Zeb Lefu Shalema for Moshe Arya ben Miriam for great shidduch for Chaya Tzivya Bas Shoshana Gittel, great shidduch for Batya Bas Sarah, by Baruchi and Lili Nishmas Yaakov Chaim ben Abba Esther Bas Yona, Avram ben Shmuel HaKain, Lefu Shalema for Liba Bas Anya, Lefu Shalema for Yosef Shmuel ben Miriam, and for a healthy mommy, healthy baby, for Ariel and Lior Bas El Zarifka. I know that Eddie is in Eretz Yisrael and he's listening to us later on, so a shout out to Eddie that we're glad that you got home. Also, it's a sad thing. When I play pickleball in the pickleball club, there was a non-religious Jew, a podiatrist by the name of Hal Orenstein, and he was a Jew, so I tried to do whatever I could. So they just called me up that he died. He suddenly died. So I don't even know his name, but his neshama should have an aliyah. I don't know if anybody ever prays for him or anything. Neshama should have an aliyah. And for Ruvain's very refined mother, Ita Beila Basra Moshe, her neshama should have a lichtige Gan Eden. Okay, we are holding we're talking about the wisdom of Mordechai. So in the first wide line, the last word on Daf Samach Daled Amud Beis, Hano Shalosh Noshim, there were three women, the Aisi Shalosh Kinin. They each brought a nest of birds. Now, if it's bird offerings that are offered for a chayva, then one is a chatas and one is a ola. If they're brought as a nedava, as a thanksgiving, then they're both olos. So, Hano Shalosh Nashim, there are three women, the Isi Shalosh Kinin. Each of them brought a pair of birds. Chada Amra, one said, Lizivasi, it's for my flow. The Chada Amra Yamasi, it's for my sea. The Chada Amra Nasi, it's for my time. So most of the Gabayim there, Sava Minei Zivasi Zava Mamish, that she was Zava Gdaila, that during the 11 days of her Siva, she saw 3 days in a row, and counted 7 days, and then brought her carbon for her Zava, which would have to be one Chatas and one Ayla. And they thought Liyamasi Mamish, that's also a sea of blood, that she was a Zava, and Loinasi, Loinasa, that Loinasa means that it was her time to bring her carbon ziva on the 8th day. So the Kulu, they figured each one of them, their bird offerings was chada achatus v'chada ayla. However, Mordechai said, don't be so quick. Amalahu, Mordechai, Shema bezov sikna. Maybe what happened is that she was bleeding, hemorrhaging, and she was in danger. And now she's bringing a carbon for Haidah. And then it's a voluntary carbon, it's 2 aylas. Or Shema b'yam sikna, maybe she went on a dangerous sea journey. And Shema be'ena sikna, when she said Ainasa, maybe she had an eye emergency. The kulu aylas nino, then they would be thanksgiving offerings, and both birds would be an ayla. Badak v'ashkach. They looked into it and they found out in each case that Mordechai was right. So Mordechai was very, very clever and knew how to interpret words. So I knew that nan Psachya alakinin. Psachya was appointed as the administrator over the bird offerings. Zeh Mordechai. And Lama Nikr Shmoi Pesachya. Pesachya means Shepesach Dvarim, because he opened up matters with Darshan, and he unraveled them. And V'yodea B'shivim Lashon. He spoke 70 languages. Says, well, he was a member of the Sanhedrin. Kula Sanhedrin, Nami Yodei Shivim Lashon. They knew 70 languages because they should be able to hear without an interpreter. People of wisdom, Bali Mara, people of chashav appearance, Bali Kaima, people of stature, Bali Zikna, people of age, Bali Kshafim, people that know witchcraft so they could detect it, B'yodim Shivim Lashon, and they know 70 languages, Shaloitei Sanhedrin Shemas M'piyat Turguman, that they shouldn't have to listen to testimony through an interpreter. But rather, what was his power? Eladavi Bayal Lishnei V'darsh. He was able to mix languages and explain them. Because earlier we said Gagois Tzrifin is a Lashon, Gagois is Hebrew, Ayin is Hebrew, but Seicher and Tzrifim is Aramaic. That's why he was also known as Bilshan, because he was Bayal Lashon. He was able to mix languages and interpret them. Also, of course, he was called Psachya because we know that Mordechai was the great man of Tefillah. Right? It says, Ben Yor, Ben Shimi, Ben Kish, Ben Sheher, Eini Yisrael, B'Tfilasai, Ben Sheshama HaKadosh Baruch Hu L'Tfilasai, Ben Shehekish Al Dal Sei Rachamim. He banged on the doors of mercy. So Psachya means Posach Yah. He opened up doors to Hashem. And Bilshan is the Baal HaLashon. He knew how to pray. So now, we're going to go into the nitty-gritty of the procedure of the Eimer. Keitzad hein Eisen. What was the procedure? Shluchei Bezdin Yoitzin Me'erev Yom Tov. First of all, the agents of the court went before Yom Tov. The area that they were going to cut the sheaves of barley, they tied them while they were attached to the ground, in order that it should be easy to harvest it. Now remember, the Tzedokim and the Baitusim, they reared their ugly heads, and they said that when it says that the Omer was Menachos HaShabbos, it means on Sunday, not the day after the first day of Pesach, on the 16th of Nisan. So therefore they did it at the proper time with much fanfare. All the cities that were near where they were cutting the Omer, Miskansos Lusham, gathered there. There was a huge throng, in order that it should be with pomp and ceremony. Kaven Shech Shicha, when it was the night of the 16th, Amar Lahan, the one who had cut it, said, Ba Shemesh, did the sun set yet? Amar Hain, they answered yes. He asked again, Ba Shemesh, did the sun set? Amar Hain, he did each of these things 3 times. Magul Zu, should I cut with this sickle? Amar Hain. Magul Zu, with this sickle? Amar Hain. Kupa Zu, into this basket? Amar Hain. The crown said yes. Kupa Zu, into this basket? Amar Hain. They said yes. B'Shabbos, and when it fell out on Shabbos, Amar Lahem Shabbos Zu, do I do it even though it's Shabbos? Amar Hain. Shabbos Zu, Amar Hain. Exar, should I harvest? V'heim Amar like Tzar. They said yes. Exar, should I harvest? V'heim Amar like Tzar. Now even though the Mishnah says each one 2 times, but Shalosh Pa'amim al Kol Davar V'Davar. He asked 3 times for each matter. V'hein Amrim Le'hein Hein Hein. And they answered, yes, yes, yes. Kol kach lama. Why so much fanfare? Mipnei habaytusim, because of the baytusim and the tztukim. She'ha'imrim ein k'tziras ha'imrim b'matzah yom tov. They said that the k'tziras ha'imrim wasn't on the day after the first day, but rather it was always Menachos HaShabbos on a Sunday. Tan Rabbanan, we know that there's something called Megillas Tanis. Megillas Tanis talks about days where you're not allowed to fast, and some days you're not allowed to eulogize. So Tan Rabbanan Ilan Yomaya, the following days the loylis anobain, you're not allowed to fast. Umiktsas, and some of them the loyla mispaid behind. You're not even allowed to eulogize. Mereish Yarchad in Nisan ad Tamnebei, from the first day of the month of Nisan until the 8th day of the month of Nisan, Itoikim Tamida, they established the proper law of the Tamid. Again, the Tzdokim said that an individual could dedicate the Tamid. And during these 8 days, they successfully proved the Tzdokim wrong, that it could only be brought from the communal funds, from the Lishkas Hagazis, from the Machzis HaShekel. So the Loyla Mispait, so during those 8 days, because of that victory, you're not allowed to even eulogize. And from the 8th of Nisan until after Pesach, Itoisiv Chaga the Shvu'aya, we established the proper determination of how to determine Shavuos, because according to the Tzdokim, Shavuos was always on a Sunday, because the Omer was done on Sunday, and then 7 weeks later is Sunday. So we prove that it's the 16th of Nisan, thereby determining the correct designation of the Yom Tov of Shavuos, the Laila Mispad, and therefore during those days you shouldn't eulogize. So first it explains to us what's the story with the Tamid. From the first of the month of Nisan until the 8th day, they established the correct procedure of the Tamid, and therefore you're not allowed to even eulogize. Shayut stoikim aimer, because the stoikim said yochid misnadav umevi tamid, that if Yisrael Fisher wants to bring the tamid from his own funds, he could do it. My Darish, what did they expound? Es hakeves echad tasa b'boker, one lamb you should make in the morning. Es hakeves hasheni tasa bein harabayim. And since tasa is in the singular, they said it could be dedicated by an individual. Maya hadu. What did the Rabbanan answer to refute them? But it says as karbani lachmi liishai, and my carbon, my food for the fires, tishmaru, you should heed. Now tishmaru is in the plural. Shiukulan ba'am mitrumas alishka, it all comes from the trumas alishka, which was the money of the machzah shekel from the whole tzibur. Now, mitam nebe, from the 8th of Nisan vatsoif moyada until after Pesach, itoisav chaga d'shvu'aya, they finally established, not like the Baitusim, the correct establishment of Shvuas. Therefore, the Loila Mispait. Show you Baitaisin Aimrim, because the Baitaisin, this was also a sect that interpreted the Psukim in a crooked way. Atzeres Achar HaShabbos, that Shvuas always falls out on Sunday. Because when it says that you should bring the Aimer Menachos Shabbos, it means Sunday. The Tapala and Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai, so Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai debated with them. V'amar lahem, and he said to them, Shaitim, fools, minayin lochem. How do you know that it's on Sunday? V'lo ya'adam echad shayim yeshivai. Nobody answered him. Chutz mezaken echad, except for an old man shayim mefatfeit kenegdai. He talked in a derisive tone to Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai. Va'amar Moshe Rabbeinu oyev Yisrael. Moshe Rabbeinu loved the Jews. V'yodea she'atzeres yom echad, and he knew that Shavuos was only a one-day Yom Tov. So in order to make it longer, Amad v'tikna achar Shabbos, he made it that it should fall out on Sunday, Kadei she'Yisrael misangin shnei yamim, in order that it should be a 2-day Yom Tov. Karalov mikrazeh. So Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai said Moshe Rabbeinu was such a good man. He was so concerned. It said Achad also yom mechayev derech Har Seir. It only took 11 days from Har Sinai through the route of Har Seir in order to get to Eretz Yisrael. It was only an 11-day journey. If Moshe Rabbeinu oyev Yisrael, if Moshe Rabbeinu loved Klal Yisrael so much, lama ichra mamidbar arba'im shana. Why do you keep them in the desert for 40 years? Amalai, so the Baitusi said, Rebbe, bekach ata patreni? This is the way you dismiss me? What are you implying, that Moshe Rabbeinu didn't love Yisrael? What are you implying, that the reason why it was 40 years was because he didn't love them? Amalai Rebbe, Amalai Shaita, you imbecile, you fool. Don't compare our perfect Torah like your nonsensical chatter. You have to count days, which would imply that Shavuos is the middle of the week. It's 7 perfect weeks. So which one is it? Can be Yom Tov Shchali Yos b'Shabbos. One is where Yom Tov falls out on Shabbos. So if the first day of Yom Tov falls out on Shabbos, then the Omer is Taka Mimocharis, is Sunday, and then it's 7 full weeks. Can be Yom Tov Shchali Yos b'Emtza Shabbos. Yom Tov falls out in the middle of the week, like say that the first day of Yom Tov is Tuesday, then the Omer is Wednesday. So then you don't have 7 complete weeks, then you have to count 50 days. So you see that it's not always on Sunday. That's why sometimes it says Tisbur Chamishim Yom, and sometimes it says Shiva Shabbosos. Rebbe Eliezer says, Ein it tzarich. You don't have to come on to that pshat. Hari oimer tispar loch. You should count yourself. It's a counting that depends on Bezdin. See, according to you by Tusim, if it's always the day after Shabbos, then it has nothing to do with the count of Bezdin, because Shabbos is the same from Ma'aseh Bereishis. But since it says Tisper Lach, it's a Svira Tluya Bebezdin. It's a Svira that counts on Bezdin, because it's the day after Yom Tov, and Yom Tov is determined when Bezdin was Mekadesh the month of Nisan. Let's get the right gears over here. Shehem Yoidim L'Chadish, the Bezdin knows how to declare the new month of Nisan, Mimachas HaShabbos, and therefore Mimachas HaShabbos means Macharis Yom Tov, which is determined by Bezdin, because when the day of Yom Tov is determined when Bezdin is Mekadesh Rosh Chodesh Nisan. Yotzis Shabbos Bereishis, that would exclude you who says it's on a Sunday, which is dependent on Shabbos, which has nothing to do with Kiddush HaChodesh. There, Shesfiras B'chol Adam, that is counted by everyone, because Shabbos has nothing to do with sanctifying the new moon. Rabbi Yeshua says a third explanation. Rabbi Yeshua Amar, Amr Torah, Mana Yomim V'Kadesh Chodesh. When you declare a new moon, we count 29 and a half days, and we sanctify the moon. Mane Yomim, count 50 days, V'Kadesh Atzeres. Ma Chodesh Samach L'Bi Asay Niker, just like the Chodesh, near its start, it's recognizable, because we know that we start counting the new moon at the end of the last month, right? We start counting the new moon when the new moon renews itself, right? We count it when the cycle of the moon starts. So here too, we know that we start counting it, right, on the 16th of Nisan. But according to you, it's not constant. It's sometimes the 16th of Nisan, sometimes the 17th of Nisan, sometimes the 18th of Nisan, because it's always on a Sunday. So it's the Sunday after the Shabbos of Pesach, which is a different day each year. It's never recognizable, because it's never the same day. Some days it's the 16th, some days it's the 17th, some days it's the 18th. A fourth pshat, Rabbi Shmuel Omer, Amr Torah, Have Omer ba Pesach, Ushtei Alechem ba'atzeres. Bring the Omer on Pesach, and bring the Shtei Alechem on Shavuos. Ma'alahalon regel uschilas regel. Just like on Shavuos, we bring the Shtei Alechem on the Yom Tov in the beginning of the Yom Tov. So Afkan regel, it's on Yom Tov, uschilas regel, in the beginning of Yom Tov. Now, according to the Tzdukim, it might not be even on the Yom Tov, because if it certainly won't be on the beginning of the Yom Tov, because if the Shabbos is towards the end of Pesach, then it's the Menachos HaShabbos. It comes out that it's at the end of Yom Tov and not in the beginning of the Yom Tov. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira Aimer, Nemer Shabbos L'mayla. It says Shabbos by the Aimer, V'nemer Shabbos L'mata, and it says Shabbos by the Shtei Alechem. same thing, except that we're learning it out Shabbos. Ma'alahalan regel uschilas regel samachla. It's talking about Yom Tov, and it's the beginning of Yom Tov, because the Shtei Alechem is done right away, and the Shavuos is only one day. It's the beginning of Yom Tov. Afkan regel uschilas regel samachla, and at the beginning of the regel must be close. And here, that works if you learn that it's Menachos Shabbos means the day after the first day of Pesach, the 16th of Nisan. Not if you learn that it's the day after Shabbos, because that Shabbos could be in the middle of Yom Tov, and then the Sunday would be at the end of Yom Tov. Okay, we're going to stop over here. We did the Mishnah Yomis already. We did get a sponsor for the Seder share tomorrow night. My dear Talmud Ari Presser is going to sponsor. It's going to be a very exciting share on different minhagim of the Seder. That'll be tomorrow night. What else? Again, if anybody wants me to email them a shtara shah for mechiras chametz, let me know. Also, I wanted to tell the Olam that today is Tuesday, on Sunday night, I took my wife out to Bordeaux Steakhouse, and we had a wonderful, delicious evening. So thank you, everybody. And there's enough to do it more. So thank you all for the tremendous Purim gift. Have a good night, everybody.